It's the amazing Rico Brogna podcast with your host, Evan Roberts.
Welcome to Rico Brogna. I got to hand it to Pete Hoffman because there are a lot of times he will label a Rico Brogna and I'll say, I wouldn't have labeled it that way wherever you download your podcast or whether you're consuming it live on YouTube. But on this occasion, I thought he labeled today's episode of the Rico Brogna as accurately as one could. The New York Mets may have the missing $250 million to sign Tarik Skubal. Now, the reason that is the headline is because Jon Heyman, but really Scott Boras, decided to release a story late on Thursday afternoon, early Thursday evening. And that story is simply the Detroit Tigers and Tarik Skubal are $250 million apart in contract talks. And upon reading that headline, Hoff and I said, we got to do a Rico. We got to talk about the implications of that, if he will be available via trade, what that trade could look like. Do we as Met fans want to pursue this? But I love that headline by Hoff. The New York Mets may have, just lying around, the $250 million extra that Scott Boras and Tarik Skubal are looking for. So kudos to Hoff for the headline. So let's just jump right into it. Let's get to this story. If you haven't read it from Scott Boras, I mean Jon Heyman, I'll give you the details. All right. This is from old friend Jon Heyman. The Detroit Tigers and superstar pitcher Tarik Skubal have a lot of work to do if they're going to bridge quite possibly the biggest gap in MLB negotiating history, an estimated $250 million. I read that headline and I read that first line and my brain starts doing tricks like, what were they offering? What is Scott asking for? But we're going to get some details. Yep, that's not a misprint. It's close to $250 million. Now, here's the info. I want you to listen very carefully, and then we'll discuss. Word is, a year ago, not 5 minutes ago, not a week ago. Word is, a year ago, the Tigers offered Skubal well less than the $170 million deal signed a bit later by Garrett Crochet. While there's no belief Skubal named his price, his obvious comp is Garrett Cole, also a Boras client, who signed 6 years ago for a record $324 million. And with prices up, Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander 43.33 a year ago, Juan Soto $51 million, the baseline ask for Skubal is seen as $400 million. That's the story. There's nothing else in this story that's real other than just John speculating. Should they trade him? Should they keep him? What should they do? So let's just piece apart the information we have. The first piece of information is that the offer that John is reporting on is from a year ago. Well, a few things have changed. Number one, Skubal may win another Cy Young. That means something. I mean, we can't just dismiss, well, it was a year ago. They were very far apart. I mean, let's think about this. You're 2 years away from free agency as opposed to 1 year away from free agency. And Tarik Skubal backed up his incredible Cy Young season with another one, with one that statistically was better. So let me just start off by saying the news is old news. It's an old report. It's a new report. What they offered him a year ago when it was Skubal's first real dominant Cy Young caliber season, I would assume is going to be very different a year later. So I got to tell you, this reeks of Scott Boras. This doesn't even reek of like good reporting. No offense, John. And I like John. John and I have a good relationship. I don't mean to crap on him overall. Just this story is weird. You are reporting what the Tigers offered this man a year ago, when rightfully so, the offer should be different. One Cy Young year versus two Cy Young years. 2 years away from free agency versus one. So let's get to the crux then. You may be saying, all right, Ev, well, why was this leak now? I think Scott Boras did this for a reason. This is clearly a Boras leak. This is not the Tigers leaking it. This is Scott Boras basically telling the world Tarik Skubal wants to get paid. Those comps of Verlander and Scherzer's average annual salary, or even Juan Soto's average annual salary, and the years of Garrett Cole, that's done on purpose because that's what he's going to ask for. Like, it would not surprise me if the first thing Scott Boras asks for is a 10-year contract for $500 million. Now, that may sound nuts. That may sound crazy. And I am not suggesting that even in the open market, Skubal will get that. But yeah, he's going to ask for that. He's going to look at Verlander and Scherzer's $43 million and say, this guy deserves more. He's going to look at Cole's years, which was 9 in his contract, and even Fried getting 8, and say he should get more. And so that's going to be the initial ask. And that's why, let's just get this out of the way before we talk about a Met trade and if we want to do it or not. He's not extending. I'd be stunned if he extended. Like, unless the Mets or another team said, all right, Scott, here's the $500 million 10-year deal you want, which no one's going to do. They're going to let him get to free agency, and then there'll be a bidding war. And it'll be a bidding war, but I don't think it'll ever get to that number I described. I think that's just what Scott would ask for. So the idea he's going to sign an extension with the Mets or anyone else, I find that very hard to believe. But why does Boras leak this? I think he leaks this to send a very important message to Scott Harris and the Detroit Tigers, which is either you're going to overpay to keep my player, or you're going to let him get to free agency, or you're going to trade him. Now, I don't know what Scott prefers. Like, would he prefer Skubal to be traded to a big market team? I guess, but I don't think that's going to change him extending. Like, Juan Soto was traded to a big market team. He was traded to the biggest market of teams in the New York Yankees, and they never had an interest in extending. Not 1 second. So the idea that he would do that with the premier pitcher on the market, I think, is a fallacy. So as we engage in this discussion, let us just understand there is not going to be a negotiating period. And even if there is, unless Steve Cohen and the Mets are willing to just say, whatever you want, sure, here's $50 million a year, which I doubt they would just hand over. I don't think he's signing before he gets to free agency. But I think that's the ask. Now, where does he end up a year on out in terms of money? I think he gets the 8 or 9 years. I definitely think he'll match the Fried Cole demand. And I think you're looking at a salary that's probably closer to $40 million a year than the 50 he would ask for. So let's go 9 times 40. That's a $360 million contract. That's what I think we're looking at. And a couple of parts here. Would I be willing to give that if I am the New York Mets? The answer is I would. You know, I said this last year when talking about Corbin Burns and Max Fried and all the big free agent pitchers. There's going to have to be the exception to your rules for some players. And a guy who is a left-handed stud who gives you 190 innings a year, who's coming off back-to-back Cy Young years, who's still in the prime of his career. Now, I get it, the end of his career, who knows what that looks like. I think you understand that eyes wide open, but I think you feel pretty good that at least for half of that contract, you're getting a perennially great starting pitcher. I would take that risk. That's me. He's the guy I would look at and say, yes, I'm going to take the risk. And I'll use Garrett Cole as an interesting comp. So Cole got to free agency a year earlier than Tarik Skubal in terms of age. Skubal right now is 28. He's actually about to turn 29. So this upcoming season is going to be his age 29 season. When he gets to free agency, he will be a 30-year-old essentially. So whatever you're giving him, it's a post-30 age that you're staring at. So if you're giving him an 8-year deal, you got him signed up till he's 37 years old. Now, do you believe a guy who, when you look at his career, has had 2 dominant Cy Young years, and before that, it was about health, but he was effective, but didn't pitch full years. Do you believe he can build off these 2 dominant years and give you 4 or 5 more dominant years? I think so. And I think that's what Garrett Cole gave the Yankees. What does the back end of that contract look like now? It's not the greatest. But I think you have to understand that. And I think when you are the Mets, or in the Yankees case, chasing a championship, you're saying, I got my best shot to win in the next 4 or 5 years by having one of the best pitchers in baseball. And as good as the Dodgers are, and they are good, and they have an incredible amount of bought starting pitching that all got healthy at the right time. It really worked out in terms of luck. Snell hurt a lot, healthy when it matters. Tyler Glasnow, walking injury, healthy when it matters. Ohtani, never healthy as a pitcher, healthy when it matters. That's great luck. But I would take Tarik Skubal over any one of those guys. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is the one that you pause on because he did have a great year. He is still really young, so card subject to change on that one. But you would be giving yourself the best pitcher in baseball. So when it comes to free agency and I'm assuming he has another really good year, I would absolutely be willing to hit that price, that 9-year, $350, $360 million price tag. I would. 10 years, 500. I mean, it's not my money. If Steve Coe gave it out, I certainly wouldn't be angry about it. Now let's get to the trade aspect. There is a limit in how far I'd go. There are going to be Met fans. I was certainly one of them in the past in talking about Juan Soto and other rentals where I'd say, I'm not willing to give up a lot for a guy who's a free agent in 1 year. I've said that a lot. I've done that a lot on past Ricos. I remember doing it about Juan Soto very passionately. I did not want to trade for Juan Soto. And I think ultimately I was pretty effing right because they got him and they never had to give up the capital it was going to cost. Now, I also believed at the time the Mets never had the package to satisfy what San Diego wants. I think the Mets have the package to satisfy what Detroit would potentially want. Now, the key word is potentially. We talked about this the other day on the Rico, episode 569, when we briefly played Scott Harris's clips on Skubal, and I walked away with the impression they weren't going to trade him. And as we stand here right now recording this podcast, I still don't think they'll trade him. And I'll give you my quick reasons before we get into a hypothetical trade. Number one, I think they're going to try to win a World Series. I think that what the Tigers are going to try to do is say, you know what? It's probably not realistic. We're going to be able to re-sign him, but we have a really good team. Our top pitching prospect, Jackson Jobe, is out for next year, but should return when we lose Tarik Skubal. So it's not as if losing him means, well, we're screwed. We missed our window. But in the meantime, let's maximize our window by trying to win with Tarik Skubal. So I think ultimately, while they may listen to offers, I think the Tigers are going to decide we'll risk losing him to try to win a championship. The Padres decided not to do that. The Padres knew they were going to lose Juan Soto, and they figured, you know what? We're trying to win. We'll try to win anyway, but we'll fix other aspects of our team. Now, I bring that up because if the Tigers ultimately decide, whether this owner says it to Scott Harris or Scott decides on his own, you know what? I think we can win even if we trade the best pitcher in baseball, but let's get other aspects that can help us. We'll try to win anyway, and we'll be in a better position in 2027 when Skubal was going to be gone anyway. If that's what they decide. And right now, my gut says they won't. My gut says Skubal will start the year with the Detroit Tigers. And the way he'll be traded midseason is if they're bad, if they have failures, if it's not a good year, and then, yes, they sell at the trade deadline. But if the Tigers ultimately say, let's shop him and let's see what we can do, understand this for any Tiger fan listening, or even just an independent baseball observer that's listening. I respect the Tigers saying no to what I'm about to be willing to offer. But understand, I'm willing to say no. Because he is a free agent at the end of next year. And as much as I want to win, as much as we all want to win, this is not a blind, just take whatever you want. I want the player. I think when we talk about Paul Skeens, it may be more like that because of the years of control that you have where you say, fine, just take what you want, Ben Sherrington, whatever you want. I want Skeens. I'm not doing that with Tarik Skubal. He's got 1 year of control. And as much money as Steve Cohen has, you're still talking about the risks of free agency. You're still talking about the possibility, as remote as it might be, that Skubal comes to New York, doesn't want to stay here, and takes less money to go to the Texas Rangers. I'm not saying any of that's going to happen, but understand, eyes wide open, there is that risk. Juan Soto was traded for with the thought of, well, no one's going to outbid us. What are we worried about? It's the dangers of free agency. It got to free agency, and the Yankees weren't willing to go as far as it was going to take. Could that happen with Steve Cohen? Of course it could. I mean, we love Steve Cohen, but Is it possible he trades for Tarik Skubal? He gets the free agency, and you name the random team. The Chicago Cubs just keep going into an area in which Cohen says, all right, I'm out. This is absurd. Wow, they're really going to give him $50 million a year? It is a possibility, and we have to understand that, even if it's not the likeliest. So what am I willing to offer? I am willing to offer 2 top prospects and then 2 players that can help them win right now. And I think that's a lot, quite frankly. I think I'm going pretty far in saying that. So let's get specific. Who are the 2 players that can help them right now? Because again, this is not the Garrett Crochet trade. The White Sox just wanted the toppest of top prospects. The Tigers are trying to win. So I think number 1, in fairness, David Peterson and Francisco Alvarez are 2 guys that jump out at me. 2 guys, specifically Alvarez, who is young, who's under team control. We all love Dylan Dingler, but Francisco Alvarez offers you that star possibility from a catching position, and you've got him for multiple years. I think that David Peterson offers the help us right now, he doesn't make a lot of money alternative for Tarik Skubal. He's obviously not nearly as good as Tarik Skubal. He did have an all-star first half. I think if you're Detroit, you walk away saying, all right, I got 2 major leaguers that help me. The catcher that can produce and also be on my team for the next half a decade, and the starting pitcher who's here for now, who bridges the gap potentially until my youth in my rotation fully develop. So let's just start with that off the major league roster. Hoff, you're good with that for a 1-year potential rental? And I'll get to the prospects in a second, but you're okay, obviously, with Alvarez and Peterson being 2 of the pieces I'm willing to dangle to a win now Detroit team?
Yeah, I have no problem with Peterson because I think it's a fair swap right there. You someone who you know is going to be lights out, or cross fingers. Alvarez is maybe the hesitation, but even that, I mean, you could always go and pick up somebody that's a little bit like more consistent in the offseason. Or, I mean, is Kevin Parada ever coming up?
Probably not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think if you look, I think Alvarez is a guy they could dangle. Now, what's the replacement? I think the replacement is Luis Torrens as a half the time Gold Glove caliber catcher, and then somebody else, whether it's a guy in free agency or a guy you trade for. I don't necessarily think it's coming from this system. I don't think Kevin Parada is even regarded as a prospect. Hayden Sanger is certainly not the guy. But again, that's a problem we worry about later. You're talking about trading for the best pitcher in baseball. And while there are lines in the sand I'm not willing to cross, I would be willing to cross the line of Francisco Alvarez is a win now piece that helps the Detroit Tigers. And yeah, it stings for us, but you're not trading for Tarik Skubal without it stinging a little bit.
Yeah, listen, and I think that after this season, I think there's very few players currently on this Mets roster that are untouchable.
Okay, fair enough. So those are my 2 ready now major leaguers. Now I got to give them 2 top prospects, 2 real prospects. I'll give them a choice of one of the pitchers, whether it's Jonah Tong or Brandon Sproat, not Nolan McLean. That one's off limits. I'm sorry. And if that causes Scott Harris to hang up on me, okay. I mean, I get it. There are lines in the sand, and I think I'm willing to go pretty far. If it's not enough, by the way, I respect it. Tigers are trying to win right now. Nolan McLean's not in the trade. So I am giving you Alvarez, Peterson, and then your choice of Jonah Tong and Brandon Sproat. I think that's pretty good. You're walking away with a top pitching prospect to potentially replace Skubal as a star down the road, and even a Band-Aid for right now to help my rotation in David Peterson. I give them either Sproat or Tong, and then, and I know this is a lot, I'd give them one of Carson Bench, Jet Williams, Jacob Reimer, AJ Ewing, Ryan Clifford, whichever of those position player prospects, and I hope it's not Jet Williams. I hope it's not Carson Bench, but it can't be both. It's got to be one. So I would offer a position player top prospect from that grouping that I just named, Bench, Jet, Reimer, Ewing, one of the top pitching prospects, Sproat or Tong, and then the 2 major leaguers that I'm trying to help you with would be Alvarez and David Peterson. I think there are Met fans listening who are going to say, that's too much, Evan, for a rental. Fair enough. But I understand that the trade for a guy who's going to be coming off back-to-back Cy Youngs, I got to come with more than a pea shooter. And I feel it's a fair offer. I understand if the Tigers say no, but that's as far as I'd be willing to go. And I think it's going pretty far.
Right. And it's going far, but here's the thing, right? Say, for example, a couple things here. First off, say if the Tigers say, listen, I appreciate the offer for all those prospects. Good job. But we really want McLean. He's the one and only guy. Can we make something work with McLean? Is there adjusting at all to get Tarik Skubal?
With McLean in the deal, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Nah, I'm not doing it.
No matter what. Even if it's keep Tong, keep Sproat, keep the young kids, keep
I'll tell you why.
Alvarez and McLean straight up for Skubal.
I'll tell you why. And maybe it's irrational. And if it is, totally get it. That's part of being a fan. I think he has a chance to be great. And more than just a chance to be great. Like, we saw glimpses of it. And I'm willing to use him in a trade for Paul Skeens, obviously. I'm not going to be that ridiculous when it comes to that hypothetical. Yeah, I'll include him for Skeens because Nolan McLean is everything we want Skeens to be. Tarik Skubal is going to turn 30. He's a free agent. I get 1 year of control. I cannot trade a guy who I think has a chance to be a top 10 pitcher in this sport for the next decade and has the toughness and everything that we fell in love with. I can't risk that for a rental. Now, I get it. This could blow up on my face because Nolan McLean may not work out to what we're expecting. I totally get that this could be an all-time horrible decision on my part that we can play audio clips of and laugh of 5 years from now. I'm just not willing to do it. I'll do it in a deal for Skeens. I'm not doing it for a 1 year rental of Skubal. And I think what I'm willing to offer is a lot. I don't think I'm lowballing the Detroit Tigers because it's 1 year. I'm giving up 2 top 50 prospects potentially, a major leaguer who still has a chance to be really good, and a quality pitcher for a 1 year rental. What did the Yankees give up for Juan Soto? Yeah. Think about it. What did they get? They gave up a bunch of pitchers. Was that the same package as what I just offered? I think my package is far and away better.
Your package is much nicer. Michael King is Michael King is a legitimate starter in the majors. So that's somebody that he could have been the ace of their team. His injury problems are the only problem. But here's the thing about what you're saying too, because I think on the other end, the one side of it, I think the Tigers may just have a problem with. I don't know if they believe in Sproat or Tong. There's some nice pieces to it, but again, like you said, they're trying to win now. Is it enough for right now? Who knows? The Mets side of it, the Mets fan side of it, you're giving up all those prospects, like you said, for rental. How important then is it to guarantee to sign him, no matter how much he costs?
No, I think you are going to put yourself in a spot where you really need to re-sign him. You're not giving up that package to just try to win. And so I think David Stearns would have to commit to, hey, I'm breaking my own unofficial rules. I'm going to go all out for this guy because I do think he's the exception. I mean, we're going to go through all the starting pitching free agents for this season, and there's going to be major kind of questions about all of them. I think you're still talking about a guy who will have just turned 30, who will be coming off at least 2 Cy Youngs, maybe a third. We'll see what happens next season. A lefty. Yeah, I think that's the exception. And before you make any trade like this off, if this is your point, I agree. Before you make any commitment like this, you have to understand the willingness to go really far in negotiations to keep him. You're not giving up a package like this to rent them for 1 year. Wouldn't make any sense if you're the Mets.
Or would you be giving him a suite at Citi Field?
Absolutely. I don't care about suites at Citi. I give him my tickets, all right? Or at least 2 of them, not all of them.
Hey, speaking of, by the way, did you get a special thing in the mail?
Yes.
From Pete Alonso?
Yes. How are you aware of this? What are you checking out my mailbox?
No, I just saw somebody put it on social media somewhere. And I'm like, well, if this person got it, then I guarantee there's at least one other person I know.
I got it in the mail today, and I haven't even opened it yet because I ran to work and I told my wife to hold on to it. But yeah, the Mets offered what they're calling a commemorative ticket to the Alonso record-breaking home run game. And so I had it delivered Thursday morning, but I was running out to work. I told my wife, hold on to it. I still haven't even opened it. So on a future Rico Brogna, I will display it for the YouTube audience, so you'll be able to take a look. Let me read you a quick email about the Skubal stuff. This is from Brian. Brian writes, Scott Boras clearly put the $250 million gap out there because he wants him traded. Stearns needs to make this happen. Also, have you considered that Boras may be doing this because he wants Skubal traded and extended before the potential of a salary cap? Oh, it's a good question. I'd assume all contracts would be grandfathered in should a cap be implemented. For 1 year of control, I think the package gets it done since we know Detroit will be motivated to trade him. Here's Brian's offer. Jet Williams, Jonah Tong, AJ Ewing, and Brandon Sproat. It's similar to mine, except it's just sticking with prospects. I think the Tigers are going to try to win. I would think of it in a similar light to the Padres, where they wanted help now. And Jet Williams, Jonah Tong, AJ Ewing, Brandon Sproat, it offers some help now. I mean, Tong and Sproat were in the major leagues. Jet Williams really close. Don't get me wrong. But I think that giving them major leaguers that help them, and I know some Met fans will say, well, give them Jeff McNeil. That'll help them. Or give them Kodai Senga. That'll help them. I don't know what their interest level would be in guys like that. Of course, we'd be willing. I don't think any Met fan would hesitate towards moving the final year of Jeff McNeil or Kodai Senga. I don't know what it does in negotiations like this. I don't know how much it helps, but I think we need to keep in mind that Detroit doesn't want to trade him. I still am convinced of that. But if they did, they would want major league help. The lockout question. It's a great question. It's a great question for Steve Cohen and for Hal Steinbrenner. Whenever this question is asked to David Stearns or Brian Cashman, I don't think you're ever going to get an answer because they are working at the behest of their owners. And their owners will tell them, hey, I got a suspicion. Here's your payroll. Go do this or go do that. Boras, it's a great question because Scott Boras is very, very powerful in the Players Association. Some may say too powerful. So is he one to be cocky and say there's never going to be a salary cap? We will never allow a salary cap. We are never going to give in to the owners. So no, I've got nothing to worry about. Or does Scott say, you know what? I do want to play it safe, even if it's not a cap, which there will never be. I mean, if we get a salary cap, we're going to be shutting down the sport for 2 years. Just understand that. And don't worry, I have plenty of Ricos scheduled. Lockout Rico is going to be off the charts. All right. It's going to be some of the greatest Ricos you've ever heard. But my gut tells me Boras is a cocky guy and that Scott Boras would not be saying, hey, let me just take a deal because I'm afraid of the lockout. Give us your thoughts. What is the package you would be willing to offer for Tarik Skubal? The RicoB@gmail.com. Who are you not willing to give up? To me, it's Nolan McLean. Do you guys agree or am I wrong? Do I have to broaden my horizons? Either way, we wanted to give you this Rico Brogna in reaction to this little piece of news that came out courtesy of Scott Boras and John Heyman. We've got more Ricos coming, including on Friday night or Saturday morning, depending on where you download your podcast or if you consume us live. We will be grading David Stearns and what he did for the 2025 season. So check that out in your Rico Brogna feed. We appreciate you listening, downloading, and subscribing to another edition of Rico Brogna.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Rico Brogna podcast. It's amazing, isn't it? Make sure you download it now to keep it on you at all times.